Hey everyone, Selwyn here from WynnStrength.com. On this video, we're bringing you the first day of the third week of the Darkhorse training program by Brian Alsruhe. If you've been following along, you know that I've started this new program, the Darkhorse training program, in order to build some more general baseline level of strength, as well as improve my conditioning and do some different style training rather than the straight powerlifting style program. Anyway, I'll leave links below for Brian Alsruhe's explanation of the program, as well as the LiftVault website where you can get a spreadsheet of the program in order to follow along if you want to do this program at home. But nevertheless, let's just get into it. So for the warm-up, we just did 5 rounds of rows, air jumps, and pull-ups. Nice little way to get the blood flowing. Nothing complex. I don't do a lot of overly complex warm-ups. I don't think they're that necessary. I think really just get the blood flowing, get the sweat dripping, get the body temperature up, and then just start doing the main movements. That's really all I do for the last year, and I haven't noticed any detriments or any negative side effects out of doing that. So saves a lot of time. You don't need to spend 30 minutes foam rolling, if that's even potentially doing anything. A lot of it is unnecessary and just a waste of time, frankly. So from that first warm-up / conditioning, we move on to the warm-up of the max effort work. I'm trying to shorten the warm-ups down, so we're really just doing warm-ups with the Romanian deadlifts as well as the safety squat, box squats. For today, the 2 main movements. I'm not bothering to warm up the hanging leg raises or the kettlebell swings because I don't think it's necessary. So we just worked up from the empty bar and just added some weight up, doing more reps than we do. So the main movement of today is the box squat with the SS choke bar. That being said, we're doing heavy singles. So in the warm-ups, I'm not going to do just ones all the way up. I'm going to start off with 10 with the empty bar, and then 5, and then I went up to 110, 150 with 5 reps, and then 240 with 3 reps, and then we start with the main working set at 290 with a single, and we work our way up to our top single of today, which was 410 pounds. I think that's a new PR. A great way to set PRs for yourself is to just pick novel movements with different rep ranges. I currently don't have a 2-rep PR for this movement, nor do I have a 3-rep PR, so well, it's one way to get nice little gains along the way and give yourself a little psychological boost there. But nevertheless, new PR for the day, 410 for a heavy single, felt good. I think the knee started to cave in a little bit, so didn't want to push it too far. The form was breaking down a little bit, and at this heavy weight for the heavy single, I felt like the form wasn't as solid as it was in the previous week, so I think that was a good place to call it off. I think if I had to, I could probably eke out another 10 pounds, make it 420, but again, I'm not really testing here. I'm kind of build up, so stuck at a 420, did that twice. The Romanian deadlifts, you notice I am using some wrist straps just because the weight starts to fall out of my hand at this point. Yes, my grip strength is a limiting factor on the weakness you're well aware of, so I think not using straps can help. But with the Romanian deadlifts, I prefer not to use an alternating grip. I prefer to use a double overhand grip. That's why I want to use the straps. Just personal preference. I like to stay out of the alternate grip mode as much as possible. Really, I only prefer to do that when I'm doing competition style deadlifts or just my regular conventional deadlifts for fewer reps. If I'm doing anything above 5 reps, I'll tend to just throw on the wrist straps and get some grip strength that way. Get some grip aids that way rather than trying to do with the alternate, just because of the asymmetries of the shoulder joints, and it's not worth it in my opinion. So we stuck with that 275 for a bunch of sets, all up 9 sets with 275 pounds for 5 reps all the way across. That's a lot of volume there, just like usual. These assistance movements are really good at driving up a lot of time under tension and a lot of volume. The 275 felt great. I think this is definitely a tonnage PR for that movement. I don't think I've done this much volume in a really long time, and I think that's one of the benefits of the program. And then we couple that with volume work with the SSB box squats. I'm going to get that right one of these days. But we hit 330 pounds for a set of 7 for our first AMRAP set. Impressed with that. Again, my goal is usually to hit 2 over the prescribed reps, so we had 5 for today, hit 7, hit my goal, and that was a great place to cut it off. I think it went well. We wrapped it up today with dynamic effort deadlift, so we did 295 pounds with orange bands from Elite FTS. Added a couple more pounds to the movement, especially at the top of the movement there. I've explained accommodating resistance in a previous video. You can read all about it. I'll do a video about that as well, just based purely on that. Nevertheless, again, 10-minute EMOM. I've noticed with these bigger movements with the lower bodies, mainly the squat and the deadlift, the dynamic effort EMOM section does take a little longer. I'm not able to catch my breath quite as quickly as I am with the overhead press or the bench press version, so bit of an issue there with conditioning. So instead of taking 10 minutes, this actually took around 12 minutes, just because we had definitely towards the end of the sets there, the tiredness kicks in and the fatigue kicks in, and my form starts to break down. I can feel my lower back kind of shifting out of position as I try and grind these reps out. Hopefully the speed kind of slows down a little bit, but I am trying to still focus on keeping that bar speed moving really quickly, and mainly trying to make it move as fast as I can mentally, more of a mind-muscle connection movement there. So that wraps up the first day of the third week. So this is our last week before our deload week. I'm just going to not do much next week. It's going to be mainly a cardio arm day, not many heavy lifts, just because it is quite a brutal workout. The training here is very intensive, and I think a rest period is definitely needed here, just because we have created that really dense workout structure with keeping workouts under an hour and a half, but we're doing a lot more work and a lot more fatigue on the body is accumulating. So I think it is a great way that we have 3 weeks on and 1 week off for the entire set of the program. Since we're starting off the third week, I thought I would actually try and talk about some aspects of the program that I haven't really talked about in the past, because this is a new style of programming that I'm actually undertaking right now. So it's not your typical program, the powerlifting style program, or like even the regular strongman style program. This is kind of a hybrid program that I've come across, and I think it's executed really well, and it draws from a lot of different programming theories and fundamentals there and ties it all into one. And I just want to address, first off, is the conjugate method of training, which this pulls heavily from. Now, a bit of nomenclature definition to get clarification to get out of the way. Historically, conjugate training has meant block training, which is different to concurrent training. So historically in the past, you either had concurrent training or block training, where you had block training, which meant we had specific seasons and certain blocks of periods of focus. So we did a block of strength, then a block of hypertrophy, then a block of peaking, and then a deload block. So 4 distinct blocks that you would train for, and you'll probably throw different blocks in there as well if you needed to, depending on what style of training, what goals you wanted to achieve. So this was definitely a very typical powerlifting style program that I've been doing in the past, even the power building style program. If you watch my previous videos, a lot of the programs I do, that's like a basic nature of the basic fundamental structure of those programs, is that block periodization. That was normally known as conjugate style training, and that was in contrast to concurrent training, where concurrent training is you're training all of those skills all at once. So rather than having a strength month, a hypertrophy month, a peaking week, things of the nature, you're actually trying to accomplish all 3 concurrently, all at the same time throughout the entire training cycle. You're not really having different seasons. You're not doing off-season, on-season training. You're really just training the same, as in a similar fashion, all the way along until possibly there's a peaking phase before a competition. But for the most part, you're training all aspects at the same time. In the space of like a month, you were achieving different things. But nowadays, because of Louis Simmons at Westside Barbell, we've actually shifted over to a conjugate training is more concurrent style training, and that's been popularized by Louis Simmons. But the Dynamo Club out of the former Soviet Union claims to have created that system. But with that being said, Simmons bases his version of Westside / conjugate training over a Bulgarian training system, which is a slight variation to the original Dynamo Club version of this program structure. So in essence, we are training different movements within a day. So within the course of a week, we're training all aspects of the movement, all aspects of strength, hypertrophy, and peaking. In this case, we're not losing adaptation. So one of the criticisms, I guess, of block training is that once we focus on strength, we're leaving hypertrophy at the door, and that goes with peaking. So when I'm focusing on developing one rep max strength, I'm negating my ability to grow musculature. When I'm trying to grow musculature, I'm losing my ability to gain strength. And this makes both of them, I don't think there's a right or a wrong path, but I'm just trying to highlighting the pros and cons of each of them. Not to say that one is better than the other, because obviously there have been successful people on both, and both are based in research, as well as there's a lot of anecdotal evidence and a lot of successful athletes that have used either of these training systems and training structures in order to get really good and to get really advanced. But with all that being said, that's one of the criticisms of block training, is that you're negating, you're leaving a lot of several factors out on the table while you practice focusing purely on one stream of training. That's where conjugate style kind of kicks in, and that's where we have different things such as max effort, dynamic effort, volume work, as well as conditioning. All of these things happen across every single day. Across the week, we're attacking different muscle groups. So we're not going to be doing rep maxes on the squat every single day. We're going to be doing rep maxes on the squat possibly once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks, depending on how strong the athlete is. It's not we're doing heavy singles, then we're going to like sets of 20, then we're doing sets of dynamic effort movements, then we're doing we're not trying to do a bunch of movements in one day. We're looking at breaking up these structures into the course of a week or the course of 2 weeks, depending on how you want to structure that program. So for example, with the Darkhorse program, we're basing our max effort on either heavy fives, heavy threes, or heavy singles. And then with our volume work, we're actually taking a certain percentage of that based on if we did 1, 3, or 5, and then we are doing some volume work with that reduction in weight. What that might be anywhere from 70 to 85% of that weight. And then with the dynamic effort, we're dropping down the weight significantly, changing the movement, adding some resistance bands or chains, adding some accommodating resistance to the movement, and then we're getting some stimulus that way. But again, these are all happening every day, but the movements are different across the course of the week, as well as the sets and the rep scheme. So we're not completely taxing the body we're not driving the body into the ground every single day. We're trying to build the body up day by day, but over the course of a week or 2 weeks, and in this case 3 weeks, because that's how we have our 3-week cycle. We're actually, if you look at the 3 weeks as a whole, we've hit every single factor that we want to touch over the course of the 3 weeks, rather than having a strength block for 3 weeks and then a hypertrophy block for 3 weeks. We've done one of each of those over every day across different movements, and there's a lot of variation and daily undulation. So that's one of the key things that we have here with this Darkhorse program, is that conjugate style concurrent training that tries to address all of these factors. And in addition to that, we're actually keeping the rest periods quite short. So we're also throwing in a conditioning factor without having a separate conditioning day. Unlike some other programs that would prescribe you need to do conditioning day on this day, where the program is actually incorporating all that within the training program by keeping the rest period short and by keeping that workout structure to under an hour, ideally an hour and 15 minutes max. So you combine all that together, we're actually getting a little bit more bang for your buck, if you will, with regards to this style of programming. And we're training a lot more systems all at once, whilst letting other systems recover. So if you have it's a more complex way of training, I think. And in that complexity, we're able to drive up gains in certain aspects, let the body recover in other sides. So we're not doing a heavy squat in the same week as we're doing a heavy deadlift, because that's going to drive up too much stress and too much fatigue. So we do heavy squats one week, and then maybe then a medium set of squats the next week, and then relatively lighter squats the following week. But we contrast that with the deadlift, so we're not doing the same weight rep load for the deadlifts as we are for the squats, and same thing with the bench press and the overhead press. So we have our 4 main movements that we're playing around with, different sets and rep schemes, in which case we're able to vary the stress on each body part and allow each system to recover whilst taxing another system at the same time. And that's kind of the beauty behind conjugate training, is that we're able to play around all these factors. It takes a lot more thought and complexity behind program development, which is why I think it pays here to get a coach or to get a program created for you, unless you know exactly what you're doing. And even if you do, I would argue still get a coach. That way you're able to play around with these features and these factors all at once and kind of lock them all in. Because I think when you get one thing, it's because of the complexity of a conjugate style training, I think it's a lot easier to screw it up and drive yourself into the ground with too much work. And also on the other hand, you're able to not get as much gains, as it were, if you don't put enough stress on the body. So there's a fine balance of getting things right here, where I think block training or block periodization has a little bit more leeway and allows you a bit more forgiveness in how you select the weights and how you select your training programs, because you have a bit more time to get used to something and then keep going forward from there. But anyway, that's been today's wrap up for the conjugate style training. Over this week, I'll go over the other aspects of it. So day 2, I'll talk about maximum effort work. Day 3, I'll talk about volume effort work. And then day 4, I'll wrap up with dynamic effort work. The other three components that make up a nice conjugate style training program. So if you want to watch along and learn about the rest of the conjugate style training, I'll leave a playlist here where I'll track along the daily training vlog of the Darkhorse program, as well as throw these explanations in. Check that out. You watch the previous video, see how my progress is going, and we'll obviously see at the end of the 12 weeks how I have changed along the way. This has been Salon from WynnStrength, and remember, a better life through strength.